first recorded incident. The Bind Police Crime Register of 1951 contains what may be the first concrete entry tied to Gabbar's gang. On the night of March 17th, a group of 4 to 5 armed persons raided the house of one Sumer Singh Lodhi of Hathnor village. Grain and 200 rupees in cash stolen. Victim reports leader named Gabbar Gurjar. Offenders escaped into ravines. This report, though terse, marks the transition from rumor to record. Gabbar's name was now on file. The Chambal police, already stretched thin, added him to their watch lists. Weaponry and tactics. Unlike larger Dacoit bands that relied on military-grade weapons, Gabbar's gang was modestly armed. Most carried katas, crude pistols, sometimes prone to misfiring. A few had muskets, often stolen from police or bought in black markets. Despite the poor quality, they made up for it with boldness. Gabbar's strategy was straightforward. Strike suddenly, in small groups, then vanish into the gullies before police reinforcements could arrive. A police officer's diary from 1952 observes, "The offender's knowledge of the terrain renders pursuit futile. Our constables often wander half the night in ravines, while the gang escapes across to Rajasthan." Expansion of activities. By 1952 to 53, the gang's activities escalated. They moved from theft to open dacoity. The targets were usually moneylenders and rival caste leaders. In one incident recorded in Morena, a notorious moneylender named Chutterbuj was robbed and beaten. Villagers whispered that Gabbar had declared, "You grow fat on our grain, now we shall eat your wealth." This blend of banditry and social revenge struck a chord with poorer villagers. Some began to see the gang not merely as criminals, but as avengers. Folklore later exaggerated this image, likening Gabbar to a Robin Hood figure. Police, however, saw nothing romantic. For them, the line had been crossed. Gabbar Singh was now a Dacoit leader. Police response. In response, the Madhyabar police increased patrols. Special squads were raised in Morena and Bind, tasked specifically with ravine operations. Horses were replaced with motor jeeps where terrain allowed, yet success was rare. A frustrated report from 1953 notes, "Our men lack training in ravine warfare. Offenders fire from cover and melt away. Villagers, whether from fear or sympathy, do not give information." It was an old story. The Chambal devoured state authority as easily as the river carved its gullies, building fear and reputation. For Gabbar and his gang, reputation was as valuable as loot. Each successful raid, each defiance of police added to their aura. A man named Hariram, who was a child in those years, recalled decades later, when Gabbar's name was spoken, even elders grew silent. He was not the biggest Dacoit yet, but people felt he was becoming something more dangerous. By 1954, police began linking his gang to killings. One case in Bind recorded the murder of a Jat landlord who resisted a raid. Witnesses claimed Gabbar himself fired the fatal shot. This was a threshold moment. From petty thief, he was now listed among murder accused. The Ravine Brotherhood. Life in the ravines forged a harsh brotherhood. Food was cooked in hidden camps, often simple bajra rotis and roasted gram. Fires were kept small to avoid detection. Nights were spent on lookout, days in shifting camps. Each man carried not just his weapon, but his share of stolen grain or cash. An ex-Dacoit interviewed in the 1980s remembered, Gabbar kept discipline. No man could drink too much or betray the group. If anyone tried to sneak away with loot, Gabbar would punish him. That is how he kept loyalty. This discipline, combined with charisma, allowed Gabbar to hold together a gang even as other small bands splintered. Growing infamy. Newspapers of the early 1950s began to mention his name sporadically. A 1954 Hindi daily from Gwalior carried a headline, daring Gurjar Dacoit raids Morena hamlet. Details were scant, but the effect was powerful. A name once confined to police registers was now circulating in public imagination. In the next chapter, we follow Gabbar as his crimes turn bloodier, and as police intensify their campaign to crush the growing menace of the Chambal gangs. By the mid-1950s, Gabbar Singh's gang was no longer one of many. It had become one of the most feared in the Chambal. What began as cattle theft and grain raids had hardened into violent dacoity. Police records list a string of incidents. Landlords executed, moneylenders looted, villages held hostage. Chapter 3. Escalation into violence. The turning point came in 1954, when Gabbar's gang ambushed a police patrol near Hathnora. 2 constables were killed, their rifles seized. From this moment, Gabbar was no longer simply a criminal nuisance. He was an enemy of the state, a police report declared. The Gurjar band led by Gabbar has demonstrated capacity for armed assault on government forces. Immediate coordinated operations required. The killings intensified his reputation. Villagers, caught between fear and awe, began composing couplets. There's a lion in Chambal, Gabbar Singh he is called. He clashes with police, and it is them that fall. Chapter 4. The state's response. In 1955, special task forces were dispatched into the Chambal ravines. Police camps sprouted along the Gwalior-Morena road. Jeeps patrolled daily. Rewards were posted. 5,000 rupees for Gabbar's capture, dead or alive. Newspapers carried his name with growing frequency, stoking public alarm. Yet operations faltered. Patrols returned empty-handed, while Gabbar struck elsewhere. His gang perfected a pattern. Hit quickly, retreat across the state border, and re-emerge days later. A retired DSP recalled in his memoir, "We chased shadows in those gullies." By the time we arrived, the gang was gone, leaving only the smell of gunpowder. Chapter 5. Clash of Gangs. The Chambal was never the domain of one man alone. Rival gangs, Kalyan Singh Lodhi, Lakan Singh, Man Singh, all fought for control. Skirmishes broke out in the ravines, sometimes bloodier than police encounters. Oral histories speak of a pitched battle near Porsa in 1956, where Gabbar's men clashed with Lakan's band, leaving 4 dead. These conflicts hardened Gabbar's image as a survivor. Each rival vanquished added to his myth. Chapter 6. Apex of Terror. By the late 1950s, Gabbar's name evoked dread across 3 states. His gang carried out large-scale raids, including the infamous looting of a wedding party near Amba. Witnesses later testified. Jewelry worth lakhs stripped in minutes, the groom's relatives beaten for resisting. Police intensified efforts. Helicopters were requested from Delhi for aerial reconnaissance, a rare measure in those years. Yet Gabbar slipped through nets, aided by villagers too terrified to betray him. One headline from a 1958 daily screamed, "Gabbar Singh strikes again, police helpless." Chapter 7. The Fall. But no Dacoit ruled the Chambal forever. In 1959, a combined force of Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan police mounted Operation Behad. Acting on a rare tip-off, they surrounded a ravine camp near Kachpura. At dawn, a gun battle erupted. Official records differ on details. Some say Gabbar was wounded and captured, others that he escaped, only to be betrayed months later. Oral memory insists he was shot dead on the banks of the Chambal itself. His body paraded through Morena as proof that the reign of terror had ended. Thus ended the life of Gabbar Singh Gurjar, born a farmer's son, shaped by the Behads, destroyed by the Behads. His story was one of poverty, pride, and defiance, but also of blood and fear. The Chambal has seen many dacoits. Some are remembered as folk heroes, others as ruthless killers. Gabbar stands at the crossroads of both images, a man who rose from obscurity to terrify districts, whose name lived on in legend and ballads, and even in cinema. This was Gabbar Singh, the man before the myth.